We've heard some statistics at this meeting about the opportunities that tourism will offer. Tourism gives employment, and so we've heard the statistics that 1 in 10 jobs in some 10 years' time are going to be offered through tourism. We also know that it contributes to gross national income to the amount that we've heard. I think it was 12% was said. So it's quite a strong economic activity. Its potential is very great because particularly for women, what it offers is a large number of jobs. It tends to be more low skilled, and it's in the places where women have advantages on things like hospitality, caring for people, and the nurturing sort of things that women do. The great thing about the low skilled aspect of it is it doesn't take a lot of capital to get into tourism, and it can fit into women's lives and women's circumstances. So it's very important in that way that it has the potential to offer employment, business opportunities, and development opportunities for the communities and the societies in which the women live. And so in our meetings we've been talking about those things that tourism might offer. But the one thing that I did want to say very strongly is tourism is different from other economic sectors because it is about the human relationships that you're importing tourists, you're hosting them in your communities, and you're sharing your cultures and your society with the visitors that you bring in. And for that reason, it brings impacts that we have to come to terms with. So one of my key messages here is to think critically about the positive impacts of tourism that you can promote. And in fact, in our meetings, we've been talking about spin-offs that it can create for women to support women. It can create solidarity between women. It can lead to changes in infrastructure. It can lead to really positive living circumstances for people. But the negatives are also highly significant. So we talk about negative cultural impacts, negative environmental impacts that can come with that. And tourism does bring a whole host of change that comes with it. So it's about managing the tourism opportunity so that the people benefit. And I think we need to be circumspect about our engagement with tourism. For women to come into the industry, I think we need very, very strong programs that support them in the engagement with the industry. So I think one of the key things for women in communities that will have new engagement with tourism, people don't actually know what it means. So I think one of the first things is about education. And with this, knowing what tourism looks like. And I think exchanges, you know, if you've had communities that have hosted tourism for years, one of the key things about learning is just to see what best practice in other communities might be. And I think that kind of education, just to see how tourism runs and what the trade-offs are. I think I've mentioned some of the trade-offs that come. So those exchanges and that learning about what tourism is, how it's done, and what it looks like. But then when we get entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs who want to get into tourism, then we need really practical training that helps them with the skills. And then a key is networks, you know, connecting women to the agencies that can give microfinance or give training in business development and accounting and all of those things that go with it, and facilitating that. And then I think one of the keys is mentoring. You know, you've got very powerful women who have accomplished a lot in the sector, and then harnessing those women's knowledges about how to prosper through tourism. I have several things that I think could be done by IORA governments to foster the best opportunities for women in tourism. I think we need to look at the policy environment. I am concerned about what liberalization through things like the General Agreements on Trades and Services might do at the community level, because when we talk about tourism offering its best outcomes for women and their families and their communities, we need to be attentive to managing the negative impacts. And the thing about the liberalization is it's tending to reduce environmental and social regulations. So I would say when IORA leaders begin to look at tourism, we need to think about the policy environment and not say we're going to open up to wholesale liberalization and competition between countries without being thoughtful to creating viable sectors where women can thrive and getting them on a strong enough footing that they can compete. So that's one policy that I think is important. I think the government should also be working with partnerships with stakeholders in tourism who know some key information and concerns that governments may lack. And in particular, I'm talking about non-governmental organizations, because in tourism, the major focus for those that advocate for community rights and community benefits are the non-governmental organizations that are working at the grassroots with communities. And in my view, I've seen a real disjuncture between governments and people in the tourism industry and these NGOs that are working with local communities. And I think for women to thrive in tourism, we need to harness that the knowledges that the NGOs have. So I'm thinking about, there's an NGO recently developed called Equality in Tourism, which is focused on women's prosperity in tourism. Or in the Indian area, we've got Equations, or Equitable Tourism Options, best practice on community rights. And I think we need collaborative partnerships between all entities, development agencies, governments at all levels, tourism industry practitioners, entrepreneurs, industry associations, community leadership, the locals, but we need women's voices having direct access to the policy. We really need to connect to women's voices and to find out ways to do that, because women know what they need, and it's empowering them to be active in the decision making.